Hello again, students. Today we're going to be talking about Islam in West Africa. And more specifically, we're going to discuss how Islam went from the Arabian Peninsula into Africa, specifically to the area of West Africa. So we're going to be covering the fact that trade was the biggest spreader and that the spread led to certain impacts for West Africa. All right, so here we go. So our story begins in Northern Africa. So we know that Northern Africa originally did not have any Muslims living there. And there were three ways that the Islamic religion spread into North Africa. The first way was through Arab conquest. So as the Muslim empire expanded through military conquest, part of that came into Northern Africa. They conquered some of the peoples of Northern Africa. Now, the second way Islam spread from the Arabian Peninsula into Africa was through trade. And this was probably the biggest way, all right? The Muslims began to leave the Arabian Peninsula and go over to trade in North Africa. And of course, as they traded, they passed on their knowledge and their religion to the people they traded with. All right, the third way that Islam spread from the Arabian Peninsula into North Africa was through refugees. We know that during this time period, the Islamic religion has split into two different groups, the Sunnis and the Shiites, and they're having a lot of violent interactions with one another. And so some of the Muslims are trying to escape to avoid that violence. So some of them go to Africa, to Northern Africa specifically. And of course, again, like with the traders, as they go there, they are talking about their religion and helping to spread their religion. All right, so those are the three ways that the Islamic religion came into North Africa from the Arabian Peninsula. Now, how did the religion get from North Africa to West Africa? Well, the main answer there is through trade, specifically through the salt miners. So the salt miners that were in Northern Africa began working the trans-Saharan trade routes. These were the trade routes that went across the desert, like in the video that you all saw about the salt mines. So this trade with the salt miners going back and forth, allowed their religion to spread from North Africa to West Africa. All right. Now, here's what's important to know. The people in West Africa had long been practicing their own animistic tribal religions that enforced social and political structure. Now, when you think of an animistic religion, think of back when we studied Japan and the religion of Shinto. Do you guys remember how there were a lot of what they called kamis, which were the spirits that lived inside of every living thing? There were rock ones and tree ones and water ones. So animistic religion is very similar to that. It's the belief of living spirits or gods in anything that's living. All right, so when the Muslim traders, the salt miners, started coming down into West Africa, and bringing their idea of this monotheistic religion where there was just one God, that was a very new concept for the people in West Africa. All right, so moving on. Trans-Saharan trade routes. So take a look at this map. We studied the trade routes on the Arabian Peninsula. So now let's look at the trade routes in Africa. A couple of things I want to point out is that there were three main ways to get from the Arabian Peninsula to Africa. You could go across the Red Sea into Ethiopia and then across. You could go down on Somalia, where that little rhino horn is that we talked about, and you can go up to Ethiopia and across, or you can go up through Egypt and then go down and across. Now, if you're looking at this map, you will see that there are a lot of trade routes. All right, there's a lot of different cities that these trade routes pass through. All of these little black boxes are cities. All right, so you can see there were a lot of different trade routes used to get from the Arabian Peninsula and North Africa down into West Africa. So a question for thought is, how did these routes impact the spread of Islam? So the fact that there were so many of them and they went through so many cities, How do you think that impacted the spread? Do you think that it made it go quicker? Do you think that it made it go slower? Do you think that more people were exposed to it? What do you think? What impact did all of those routes have? All right, so it all ends up in the Sahel. Take a look at the picture that you see down at the bottom, this little map. And this red circle you see is what we call the Sahel. And basically, it's just the center of West Africa. So West Africa and Sahel can kind of be used interchangeably, all right? So it started with the salt miners in the north, and they were either conquered by the Muslims or converted to Islam through the refugees and the traders. And then the traders travel down into the Sahel, specifically the salt miners. And in the Sahel, we had the kingdom of Ghana, and then later Mali and Songhai, which we'll talk about briefly. And then here, once they got down to the kingdom of Ghana, they would share their religion while they were trading. Okay? All right, now, how was it received? All right, I already mentioned how this idea of this monotheistic religion was very different. So let's take a look at how the people in West Africa, or specifically the Kingdom of Ghana, how they received this new religion. So the old religions had a firm hold on West Africa, and the rulers wanted to continue their animistic practices. All right, they did not want to convert originally. So in the beginning, the Muslim traders were forced to exist outside of the city when they came into town to trade. They could not sleep or take part in anything in the city. All right, so they were segregated, which means kept apart from others based on, in this case, their religion. All right, and they were not even allowed to come into the city. They had to camp outside the city, and the merchants who traded with them would go out of the city and trade with them and go back in. All right, so it was not well accepted originally in the kingdom of Ghana. All right. Now, the system allowed the rulers and wealthy merchants to benefit from the taxes and trade with from North Africa without actually allowing them to be a part of their cities or culture. So the rulers and the wealthy merchants, they were benefiting from this deal because they got to trade, they got to charge taxes, but they didn't have to let the Muslims into their city. All right, so in the Kingdom of Ghana, Islam really was not accepted. Now, it's all about who you know. The Muslim traders from the north had regular contact with the wealthy merchants in Ghana because they were constantly traveling down to Ghana from the north to trade, right? Specifically with salt. So they interacted with the wealthy merchants. Now, these merchants eventually, over time, became more curious about the Islamic religion, and they started asking more questions and getting more information about it. Another group that also became interested were the scholars. Now, this makes sense, right? Because if you're a scholar or you're an educator, your job is to learn. You want to learn as much as you can. So it really makes sense that the scholars would want to learn more about this religion. And so because of this kind of beginning interest of the merchants and the scholars, you have a new group or a new class of people that emerge in the city of Ghana. And we call this the merchant scholar class because the class had merchants and scholars. And this was a class of people who began to actually teach about Islam and spread Islam within the city of Ghana, all right? Or within the kingdom of Ghana, rather. So it went from being completely not accepted to this one group of people starting to learn more about it and starting to teach it and spread it within the kingdom. All right, so quick food for thought. Do you think that Islam would have been accepted had the wealthy merchants and then the scholars not taken an interest in it? Why or why not? So if the wealthy merchants and the scholars had never taken an interest, had never started asking questions, do you think Islam would have been accepted? All right, something to think about. Muslims in action. So by the time the kingdoms of Mali emerges, Muslims are not only living in the kingdom, they are also a part of court life. All right, so Mali was a group of people, the merchants and scholars who broke away from the kingdom of Ghana. All right. They really wanted to have a kingdom where you could practice whatever religion that you wanted. So first you have this kingdom of Ghana, and then it kind of breaks into two. So now you have Ghana and you have Mali. And in Ghana, Islam is still looked down upon, but in Mali, it's becoming more accepted. All right. And some of the Muslims begin to gain a lot of influence in the court life in Mali. So some of the important jobs that they began to get were transcribing contracts, writing laws, keeping books and records, and then, of course, education. All right, so these are important jobs. So they started to develop a little bit of power this way. Now, another very important job that Muslims began to take was to become counselors and advisors to the rulers. And we all know that the greatest ruler is only as powerful as his advisors, the people who are helping him and giving him ideas on what to do. And now in the Kingdom of Mali, we have Muslims taking over those jobs. So advisors, eh? So who had advisors? Did the commoners and peasants have advisors? No, of course not. That'd be really great, though, if I could have somebody following me around all day telling me what to do. But no, it was just the wealthier class that had these advisors. So if you have the Muslims taking on these roles of advisors to the leaders of Mali, what kind of power do you think they've gained? Do you think they've gained a lot of power or a little? And what kind of things do you think they were able to influence? So for example, in terms of education, if a leader of Mali is trying to decide what the children in his kingdom will be taught, and he has a Muslim advisor that says, hey, why don't we teach all the children about Islam? Then you can see that that Muslim advisor has now affected what those kids are being taught. All right. So try to think of some other areas other than education where these Muslim advisors might have made an impact on the city or the kingdom of Mali. All right, so here's where we have that separation where the kingdom of Mali pulled apart from the kingdom of Ghana. And after they pulled apart, they went ahead and conquered Ghana. So Ghana is gone. It is bye-bye. So now it is one big kingdom called the Mali Empire, which you can see here in the map. So by around 1300, the rulers of all of Mali were Muslims. Okay, so those advisors managed to gain enough power and provide enough influence that the rulers eventually all converted to Islam as well. All right, so Mali is now a completely Islamic country or kingdom. So one of the major leaders in Mali is Mansa Musa. And Mansa Musa is known for declaring Islam the official religion of the Mali Empire. However, he accepted all religions into Mali. So if you weren't a Muslim, you could still come and you could still live in Mali. Now, of course, this is a huge difference from the Kingdom of Ghana, right? Because in the Kingdom of Ghana, Muslims couldn't even come inside. Okay, so now not only are most of the leaders Muslim, but a lot of the people are, and anybody could come. All right, so quite a big change between Gali and Mana. Now, talking about Mansa Musa decided to go on his pilgrimage. We know that all of the Muslims are encouraged or expected to take a pilgrimage to the city of Mecca at least once in their life. So Mansa Musa decided he was ready to go on his pilgrimage. And remember, he's in Mali, which is in Western Africa. He has to go all the way to the Arabian Peninsula to get to Mecca. So he didn't just hop on a camel and cross the Sahara Desert and go see Mecca. He made a show out of this. He took hundreds of camels and elephants and different kinds of animals. He took tons of people with him. He dressed everybody in gold, made everybody look really fancy, and he even gave out money as they were traveling to people that saw them. And he did this because he wanted to show people how wealthy he was. And he also wanted to spread Islam even more. So you can imagine if you're a bystander and you see this huge procession pass with all of these people and animals and gold, and they're giving out money, you might question and say, hey, what's going on with this guy? What religion is he? Maybe I need to look into this. All right, so it was a very successful pilgrimage for Mansa Musa because not only did he get to go to the city of Mecca, but he was also able to spread the religion even more with the people that he passed by. All right. Now let's get to our third empire, the Songhai. All right, so some Muslims criticized those that wanted to mix Islam with their old religion. So what started happening in the Kingdom of Mali is that you had people who wanted to be Islam, but also wanted to believe in those spirits and traditions of the old religion. And there was a group of people who thought that that was blasphemous, that you should absolutely not mix these two different religions. All right. And the Muslims who believed that they did want to mix these religions began to be persecuted. They were not really treated very well. So the Songhai people decided that they wanted a completely Islamic kingdom. They didn't want to have these people of other religions. They didn't want to have people mixing religions. And so Prince Sunni Ali, he was a prince of Songhai, the group of people called the Songhai. So he invaded the cities of Gao and Timbuktu and created the Songhai Empire. So now we have Mali and we have the Songhai. And in Mali, any religion is accepted. And in Songhai, it is only Islam. Okay? So Sunni Ali then decides that he wants to rule the world. So he takes control of the gold and the salt trade from Mali, ending the Mali Empire. So you guys can start to see the pattern here. First, we have Ghana, and then a group of people split off, and then we have Ghana and Mali, and then Mali attacks Ghana, and Ghana's gone. Then we have then we have Mali, and then a group of people called the Songhai split off, and then they attack Mali, and now Mali's gone. All right. Now, with the Songhai, it was a Muslim-only or an Islamic-only community. Now, there were still some people who kind of practiced some of the old traditions, but they were very quiet about it. They didn't make a big deal about it. All right, so two important questions to think about as we end. Number one, in what key method did Islam spread into Ghana? So how did Islam get from North Africa into the Kingdom of Ghana? All right, so think about that. And then even more important, how did the role of Islam change from the beginning of the Ghana Empire to the Songhai Empire? So what this question is asking is, how did it change from when there was the Empire of Ghana to the Empire of Mali to the Empire of Songhai? All right, we knew that each of these empires viewed Islam in a different way. So think about what the change is between those three groups. All right, hope you enjoyed, and we will wrap it up here.